All right, folks, welcome back. This is the family-friendly Fort Lauderdale podcast. It is break week here at the school, so we've been busy. We've had several podcasts this week already. And Laura, you and I are coming back for sort of like part two. We had technical glitches last week when we tried to do our first recording. So thank you for making the time so we could get you back on. Folks, Laura is both a friend, one of our first friends that we met as we moved here to South Florida and Fort Lauderdale. She also is, and this is the topic that we're going to talk about today, she's also a best-selling children's book author, motivational speaker, educator, and I'm going to say self-proclaimed because it's right there in the title, ambassador of love. So we're going to explore all of that because there's a lot to dig into. But welcome back, Laura.
Oh, it's good to be here, Tobin. Take two, right?
Yes, take two. Awesome. You know, there's a saying, technology is great when it works. And I think our society, we have so many, it's ingrained into us in so many different ways that one little thing, you know, we had issues last week and we started our conversation, had to stop. So I'm excited to pick it up again today. Laura, let's dial back for a second because literally, I think you might be one of our first friends that we ever made here in Fort Lauderdale. I remember this day so well because I think we had not even fully moved. We were living in Aventura, but we found ourselves, we just kept coming up to Fort Lauderdale. We loved the area. We loved the Riverwalk. And we were walking on the Riverwalk one weekend, and we saw the open air market at History Fort Lauderdale. So what they call Old Fort Lauderdale Village. You were there with your table, with your booth, your books, and we struck up a conversation, and it was the start of something beautiful. Do you remember that day?
I do, like it was yesterday. And Tobin, I remember you were by yourself because your family was traveling. Your wife and daughter were traveling, and you were drawn to me, but to the titles of my books.
Yes.
You were like, wow, this just really resonates with who I am, who my family is, and what we're coming to Fort Lauderdale to do with the Acton Academy. And then I was at one of the open air markets. I love them because they're all about community. And that's who you are. You jumped in, you started this family friendly newsletter and these podcasts because you understand the value and how important community is. And so, yep, I remember that day and you saying, I love the titles of these books. They're really, they resonate.
Yeah, I remember also because I don't know if you do this at every market, but I do remember specifically that day that one of your books was displayed as sort of like a walking experience. You had different pages. And so a child could go from one lawn sign to the next and sort of read pages of the book and move their body as they were going through the story. And I thought that was really cool and unique. And folks, Laura does a lot of these open air markets. Let's talk about that for a second, because I think it's a really nice way for our community. We have over 1,300 Fort Lauderdale families in our little audience now that we've been building. You regularly do the arts festival, the Los Olas Art Fair. I've seen you there. You sometimes do the Fort Lauderdale Beach, the Loop market. I know you're up in Lauderdale by the Sea. Let's talk a little bit about why you're out in the community and why that works, because it is a great way for families to sort of connect with you and for you interact so beautifully with the children. So that's part of the fun.
Awesome. So I'm going to show this, right? Just in case people aren't putting the head with the book. So this is my most popular book, I Love You More. And this is the one that I had the story walk of that day. And it doesn't work at every venue because there isn't always grass and lawn to be able to put those lawn signs in. But I love when I'm able to do that. And I know there's plenty of people in your audience that are familiar with I Love You More. But for people that aren't, it's a book that begins from both sides and reads to the middle. So we say, like, love, it never ends. It represents the infinite nature of love. And the way that I was able to do the street signs, the lawn signs, and not even realizing that it would happen was you read one side of the story as you're moving along, and then it says, okay, now turn around. This is where our book flips and begin from the other side. And you walk back and hear the other side of the story, or are able to read the other side of the story. And it opens my heart every time that I see somebody enjoying that story walk when I'm able to put it out. But the events, they're such a nice way to connect. So life as an author is a lot of alone time, a lot of times. You know, I tell the students in my school program, the life of an author is a lot of write, edit, revise, write, edit, revise. But I am a people person, and I am a self-proclaimed, self-appointed, perhaps not, ambassador of love. And I love connecting with my I had an idea when I was really young that I was going to travel the world, meet my brothers and sisters, and share the message of love. So that's what I do at those events. It's an opportunity for me to be out in the community and for our community to gather. And our community's cool because we have all of our local awesomeness, and we also have people from all over the world. So that's been an incredible gift for me with getting my message out into the world. Is where we live, people are visiting all the time, and it's neat to hear them say, oh, this book's going to Minnesota, this one's going to Montreal, this one's going to Australia, this one's going to Wilton Manors or Victoria Park. So it's a super special way for us to gather and to connect and meet people from around the community and the world.
That is you described sort of the magic of Fort Lauderdale in a really unique way, and I love the way you described it because it is we have an awesome local community. It's a beautiful city. It's a smaller city with a lot of amenities of a bigger city. So there's a lot of things to love about our little pocket here in the middle of South Florida, and then we have the benefit of it's a worldwide destination. People from all over the world come for the beaches and to experience a little slice of the life that we have every single day. And you mix the two together and you get some really great concoctions, I think. Laura, let's talk about the other books for a second, because you showed us I Love You More, and you mentioned about the flip. That's always a big hit with the children when they understand they can flip the book and read it both ways. I'll Hug You More, which is also one of your, I would call it hit titles that you've, and I believe you have one in the works coming out this year. Is that right?
Yep, I'm going to show this again. This is I'll Hug You More, and it does the same thing. This is my newest book right now, and it's also done in the flip format, and it's times throughout the day that you'll hug the little ones, and then they share times that they'll hug you. I have a second book that is temporarily out of print, and I want to show that one because an organization that we're both affiliated with is Heal the Planet. That's another. We have so many neat things that happen in Fort Lauderdale, and thanks to you and your family-friendly newsletter, we have a resource to find them, because so many times, right, we hear about them after they've happened. Like, oh, why didn't I know about that? So one of the big things that's coming up is our yearly Heal the Planet Day. And my middle book was You Are a Gift to the World, and it flips to the world as a gift to you. And this one just didn't do as well as the publisher had wanted out the gate. And there's benefits and drawbacks to everything. And one of the drawbacks to being with a publisher is if it doesn't do what they want it to do, then they just move on to the next one and let it go. My newest book, and I think that this is the one that really caught your attention, was No Matter What, You Are Loved. And a few years later, it's still in the works. But we're looking to have it in the world this year, by the end of this year, and working on that now. So it's this one may not be a flip book. It's using pictures of children from around the world to share all the ways that we're loved. One of my big reasons for being here, and it came from putting I Love You More in the world, but it's really just my overall message, is that we all know that no matter what other people say or do, no matter what's going on in our lives, our heads, or in the world around you, to know how infinitely loved we all are. So that's part of the message of this book.
I think every act of love, project of love has its own gestation period. So I have no doubt that book will arrive exactly on time as it's intended. And so I wouldn't stress about that at all. Laura, I do want to ask you, because you've shared with me a little bit before, and I think it's important for folks to know, your mother has been a really big influence on you, on your start, on the programs, and sort of the theme that you carry with you. She is a former teacher. You and I have talked about that. I've actually had a chance to talk with her at some of the events when I've seen you guys out and about with the booth. Can you share sort of how she helped shape you into the ambassador of love that you are today?
Well, I think it's awesome for us to look back or like to be able to connect the dots. And usually we can't do that until we're ahead of the game, right? But my mom was a kindergarten teacher for 38 and a half years. And then I had this idea that I was going to travel the world, meet my brothers and sisters, and share the message of love. My mother always gifted me her favorite picture books. And they're still to this day some of my favorites. They're Old Turtle by Douglas Wood. Frederick by Leo Leone. One that I found on my own is There's No Such Place as Far Away by Richard Bach. A lot of people don't know that
Mhm.
book of his. He wrote Illusions and Jonathan Livingston Seagull. But I've loved picture books. And my mother gifted me some of those for my high school and my college graduation, my later birthdays. And so not even knowingly or consciously, she was instilling in me the belief that you're never too old for a good picture book and for the message that can be um, shared inside of a picture book. And I was like, well, I didn't really mean to write picture books. That wasn't how I had seen my life going. But the beauty of writing a picture book is that the message gets to the children, but it also gets to the parents, the grandparents, the teachers and preachers that are reading the message, which I believe are, also need to hear that message and bring it into their hearts and have it in their worlds. So my mom and all that just a champion for children, whether they're her own grandchildren or now first great grandchild, or the children in the world. And so it's an honor really to be able to continue her legacy of making a difference in the lives of families and children now around the world.
Another thing that I've heard you, so first of all, folks, you will notice when you talk with Laura, the first thing you'll notice is a big, bright smile. She exudes the love that she writes about as well, and you also have a very, I think, iconic look. And I'd like to talk about alopecia for a second because I know it's also shaped you as an individual, and I've even heard you describe it as one of the biggest gifts that you've received in your lifetime, but it maybe didn't always feel that way. Can you share a little bit about that journey and how it shaped you as well?
Yeah, I don't think when people meet me now that they can understand where I was. So I lost my hair when I was 11 to a condition called alopecia. It's a stress triggered autoimmune condition. I once heard a doctor say that they can't prove that it's stress triggered because it happens to children. And I remember thinking like, wow, that's a odd statement given stress is relative and children certainly experience stress. So it can be a bad grade. It can be something that you're eating. People swear sometimes it happens around dental work. But it also, for some adults, it's really obvious when it's like the loss of a job or a divorce and there's alopecia is triggered. Sometimes it shows up just in patches and grows back, and other times it falls out pretty fully and doesn't show signs of growing back. But mine does. Mine grows back in patches, and some people choose to rock their patches, but I choose to shave and have this shiny crown. But when I was 11 and I lost my long brown wavy hair before the days of my mother being able to ask her phone, what's going on with my daughter, and going from doctor to doctor to doctor, trying to get a diagnosis. And then finally, Boston Children's Hospital saying it's alopecia. There's really nothing we can do. Get a wig and nobody needs to know. And my mother knew that that was terrible advice, but we were in a challenging family dynamic, let's just say. And I got a wig and I became so introverted. I guess I would call those my turtle years inside my shell, or maybe my cocoon. But I was introverted. I was sad. I was depressed. I was lonely. I just felt like there was something wrong with me. And then I realized eventually that I was learning lessons about life and love that I wouldn't trade for my hair. I still wasn't happy and healthy, but I got that there was a bigger picture. And then it was after I had the idea for I Love You More. It poured through me one night as an answer to a prayer. My sister was going through a hard time in her then marriage and was pregnant with her second child. And I was like, oh, this is strange. I don't really pray like this anymore. And something clearly answered me and said, "Your sister's fine, pray for your nephew." And I was like, whoa, something just answered me. And as I began praying for my nephew, the whole idea for the book poured through me. Now I bring that sheet of paper, and I don't have it right here with me, but I bring it into my school programs and show the students that even though this idea poured through me, it was so inspired. I wasn't writing it. When I looked at it, I was like, oh, this is really written for my nephew. I knew that I was going to need to edit and revise it. And then there was some more editing and revising to do. Shortly after that, I turned 30. And just 2 weeks before my 30th birthday, out of the blue, I was like, I'm not going to wear wigs anymore. I told my friends, throw me a party. And I didn't get how connected it was to the book and the message that, sorry, I'm not speaking up, that I had so much connected to. When are people going to ask if it's a wig? Are they commenting on my pretty? I used to wear these pretty red wigs. Are they commenting that it's pretty because of they want to know. So all of a sudden I stopped wearing wigs, and it was like freedom. And I found the word. It's actually really liberation. I let go of the constraints that my past was holding on me and stepped into a whole new space. And now I go into schools and share with kids about the power of being yourself and how that's what always works best. And instead of me just being like most service to that, I'm a living, breathing, shining example of that for them. So that's what part of why I say that the book was meant, so that we all know that no matter what's going on in our life, like my sister, in our heads, or in my case, on my head. And we sent the book to print on September 10th, 2001. It's been in the world that long now. But then in that next day, on the 11th, we were like, are we going to go through with this? And we said, well, now more than ever, the world will need our book and its message of love. And unfortunately, still now more than ever, the world needs our book and its message of love with all that's going on in the world. So I have come to see that this has been my biggest gift. It taught me the most about life and love and compassion for others and myself. It helps me stand out in a crowd. It helps people feel connected. They see themselves. People want to pray for me and give me hugs because they think I'm going through chemo. But it connects them to something that they've gone through or a loved one's gone through. And I think that that's what our world is hungry for, a sense of, connection, not just a sense of feelings of connection and community and knowing one another. And so I'm so grateful for who I get to be in the world.
Mm. Well, first of all, thank you for being willing to take us along that journey with you. I didn't know about the connection with 9/11. When I met you, it was right on the heels of the pandemic. So I had that connection, that also being sort of a momentous period or phase of our lives, and people needing this connection and community and caring for one another. But I didn't realize the earlier one. As we start to wrap up, Laura, I want to ask you a question. I'm going to sneak in a little word from our sponsor. So our sponsor today is Acton Academy, and I'm actually going to cede the time when we'd normally talk about the school. You already know Acton, we do things differently here. What I want to hear from you instead is you are out and about in the schools. That's a big part of your work, is the school programs, that you're bringing this message of love. That's why you call yourself the ambassador of love, bringing these programs into schools. What are you seeing that our world needs? In a way, you're bringing part of that yourself, but we all see gaps and opportunities of education. School looks differently, certainly differently than what your mom experienced years ago when she was a kindergarten teacher. What is the opportunity for us as families, as schools, as communities to create, if we tore up the old playbook and started with a blank sheet of paper, what does that look like?
Well, I think Acton is, at the front of doing things like this. And my mom actually taught, I would say, kindergarten in a time when kindergarten was awesome. She tells me all these stories about all these stations she had. She had a book cafe, and she had, learning centers. So what I'm seeing is, what I think children really resonate when I'm there with them, is my ability to be present with them. So not just teaching from a book or teaching from a tablet or teaching what there is to teach, really having a conversation with them, right? Allowing them to contribute to the conversation. So it's so many of the things I think that Acton does. Get outside, play, discover, go figure out how you learn best and bring that to the table. Allow your strengths to shine and share them and notice them. So I think that that's missing a good bit from the the general teaching the schools, where there's one way and this is the way that we're going to do it, rather than really understanding and valuing that we all learn differently, and we learn so much through play and through conversation and communication and really just being with one another. That's one of the beauties of reading books with your children, is this, screens go down, devices go down, and you're there with them. It's not even so much what's in the book, it's really that time and that presence with them.
Beautifully said. And I do think things are shifting. There's tremendous. I have lots of good friends that teach in traditional classrooms in public schools around the country, and there's been tremendous pressure on the school systems to sort of meet requirements, and but that's shifting. People are starting to open up to different ways of doing things, and so I'm very optimistic about where we're going. We're doing our little part here at the school. We're a small sort of niche school, not meant for everyone to sort of go through this process, but the folks that we have in our community, I think, feel strongly about what we're doing. And Florida as a state's been wonderfully supportive of different models. There's many options out there for families right now. And so we champion and support and cheer all of that. Laura, thank you so much for taking the time. Where can folks look for you next? What are some of the big events that you have coming up where they might meet you in person? And can you make sure that we hit the right website for them to get a look at the book, order? What are the next steps for folks?
Yeah. So where I'll be this month is the Lauderdale by the Sea market. It's a beautiful little market. I don't know if you've come by there yet, Tobin. It's awesome, on Sundays from 9 to 1. I'll also be at Heal the Planet Day on Sunday, April 21st. It's a great community event out at Esplanade Park, right there across the street from the Discovery Mods Museum. And people can visit my website to find out more about my school programs. I've got some fun ones coming up around the community. Of course, they're, only for the schools, but more information's there on my website, which is my name, lauraduksta.com. As my mother taught her kindergarten students, duck without the C and star without the R. Laura Duksta.
Well, first of all, that's awesome. I've been calling you Laura Duksta for, I think, forever. So thank you for correcting me on that. I hadn't made that connection on the right pronunciation, but you have painted the picture perfectly for me to remember that going forward. And yes, we had the Noelia and Ken from Heal the Planet on yesterday's podcast.
Oh, great.
We talked about the Heal the Planet Day coming up. So we're going to be there too. We're going to be doing our Thumb Buddy table. We'll see you at that event. And folks, great opportunity to get out and have all kinds of fun that day at Esplanade Park. Thank you so much, Laura. I appreciate you taking the time today.
You're so very welcome. And remember always to keep shining.
Thanks,
Okay.
Laura.
Bye.
Be strong.